Kodash, 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 Adonai, Elohim, Sabayav, meaning holy, holy, holy. Tetragrammaton of hosts. Tetragrammaton meaning Yaheh, Vaheh, which we would pronounce as Yahweh, Yahweh. Tetragrammaton also means Lord of hosts, Lord of vessels. Elohim, let us create them in our image. All right, today we back in the book of secret wisdom, and we're going into stanza number 4, and it's titled The Gift of Mind. Let's jump right into it. 25 reads, the sons of God came. They descended to examine the field wherein the golden seed was emerging, but the earth had already been partially poisoned, meaning diluted, tampered with, defiled, with the forebodying fumes of evil. Poison seeped into the soil, threatening to envenom the new shoots. So remember yesterday we was talking about these new shoots, mean during different periods throughout the course of history, different energies come through different planetary alignments to change the dynamic of the things that is going on the ground from the things that's happening above. So above, so below. These are the new shoots, but wickedness is always laying in wait, trying to find a way to divert it or pervert it or, dilute it, as you see today. It said poison seeped into the soil, threatened to envenom the new shoots. The plants resisted as they strove to develop according to the program laid out in the core of the seed. So each seed or substance has a programming. Even when a man and a woman lay together and he shoots his substance into the womb of the woman, that has a programming from on the high, from the spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit, or sometimes the evil inclination. But we are in control of our own judgment and salvation. So we were put here for the purpose of righteousness, but sometimes it goes into another way. Many are called, few are chosen, He said, they strove to develop according to the program he laid out in the core of the seed. The fiery essence of the seed was impervious to the darkness. The fiery essence of the seed was impervious to the darkness. Evil hid himself, lying in wait for an opportune moment to attack the shoots, just as they were on the point of breaking through. As you've seen in Revelation 12, as the woman, she was about to perceive birth, the dragon sat and laid wait for the moment to devour her before she could even prosper. The same thing that Herod did during the time the Messiah was born. All the children under 2 to be murdered because he thought he was going to be in competition with a new king, but not understanding the spiritual significance of it. Same thing, nothing new under the sun. This happens over and over and repeats throughout history. So evil hid himself, laying in wait, like King Solomon said, they lay in wait day and night. They watch me, seeking to devour me. They lay traps. And King Solomon would pray that all their plans be reversed on them and they fall victim to their own traps and wicked devices. He said, evil hid himself, laying in wait for an opportune moment to attack the shoots when the good energy came, just as they were on the point of breaking through. The sons of God discerned the lurking danger. Henceforth evil would fall under the evil eye control. The gods awaited the arrival of the sons who had been sent to the earth. So the gods, he's talking about the original man. Let us make them in our image. Now, as you see, it's saying, waiting for the sons of God to come on earth. Now, those are the B'nai Hey Elohim. They are also sons of God. They are the celestial sons of God, just so we are the physical sons and daughters of God. the gods who he chose, the chosen seeds. 26. The gods awaited the arrival of the sons who had been sent to the earth. The sons were delayed. However, as they attempted to expose all the spirits that had been seized by evil, they were delayed. If you look at some of the old stories in the Bible, and they was talking how they were an angel had got caught up and it got delayed because the demonic forces and energies that didn't allow him to get there to get the message and bring the message back in a specific timing. The sons of God were delayed, however, as they attempted to expose all the spirits that had been seized by evil. They were trying to explain certain truths to the people, but these people did not have sufficient intelligence to properly understand the sons of God. They didn't have sufficient intelligence. So the way that they would talk, the knowledge that they was dealing with, it's very foreign to them. Just like when you go into the esoteric and the exoteric, it's really, they have no explanation for it, because if you're not a spiritual people, you cannot understand spiritual things. If you only focus on physical and materialistic things, you're not focused on anything spiritual. It's like it says in Revelation 2:9. He knows our works, our tribulation and poverty, but we are rich. And you know the blasphemy of them that say they are Jews but are not, but are the synagogues of state. We are rich because we are rich in spirit. We have the E1B1 DNA, the X chromosome, the X-Men, the X factor, the El Cristo Negro bloodline. The sons of God, the great sages of insight, cried unto the gods, turning the wheel to hasten the coming of the period. So they're setting the stage for the coming of the period. So the angels under different planetary alignment. He said, when man would be endowed with a more perfect mind and man became thoughtful, he began to notice that his skin had quite recently changed from that of an animal to something quite different. When you go into the Kabbalah, you can read about the animal genes, and it talks about 4 compartments of spirit and soul and how there is this animal gene. So that correlates with that to something quite different, a human one. So this is transformation and evolution throughout history. But a sinister low power, a low frequency basically, one based more on instincts than reason, held sway inside of him and prevented him from ascending, reaching his higher self, coming from a lower frequency to a higher frequency. Together, the crown, mouth shut, the kingdom. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in the Shemaim. The sons of God therefore undertook the enormous task of transmuting instinct into intuition, which would allow man to hear the voice of the heart. So, reason. He said, more on instinct than reason. Instinct would be thinking without reason, and more of your intuition would be knowing the cause and effect, will be spiritual understanding. What is your driving force? Every thought that leads to action that extends from an idea. So understanding that it's driven by the spirit. Yes? Yeah, it would be more thinking without reason, would be, instincts, and more so intuition would be spiritual, knowing the cause and effect, the driving force of spirit. 28. The work was in full swing on the earth. Immortal beings were walking amongst mortals. Immortal beings were walking amongst mortals, affecting colossal transformation in human hearts. So this is probably in the fall, the fallen angels, when the sons of the Elohim came to the earth, the fallen ones, fallen angels, walked amongst mortals, affecting the colossal transformations in human hearts. And as The condensed cluster of matter steadily softened, loosening their impenetrable stoniness. Stoniness means a stony heart, basically a prideful heart. In order to get to the Most High, you have to uncover your heart in truth, and you got to put your pride to the side. So this was this impenetrable stoniness, stubbornness. He said, man became capable of feeling with the heart. There were still many things he could not yet understand, but already he was speaking of what he felt in his heart. So basically now he's speaking from his spirit at this point in time, but he didn't have the full intelligence to understand how the process of the Godhead works, And so he took the first step towards the country of immortality. This is everlasting life, eternal life, immortality, spiritual life that exists forever. Your spirit and your consciousness is your remembrance. You are here to download and remember and outweigh your good with your bad, or your bad outweigh your good. And that becomes your spirit. You become an entity once you leave your body. 29. The sons of God noticed that some of the mortals were now robed in seamless immortal garment. So aligning themselves with the tree of life, everlasting life, removing themselves from the evil inclination, which caused death to begin with. Their hearts were blazing, being reflected with all their fervor and purity in the great divine fire. So basically, their spirit has been ignited. Their spirit is being uplifted. Spirit is symbolic to a flame of fire. That's why in Revelation it said that he had hair like white like wool, skin of bronze and brass with flames of fire. Basically meaning his spirit was illuminating. He's ascending to his higher self, the messianic energy. In them, the power of the animal principle had been obliterated forever, and all the instincts of the past overcome. These were earthly gods created from ordinary men. Once they were qualified to replace the higher toilers of light, the sons of God left the fields of the earth and returned to the gods on high. So the sons of God left the fields of the earth to return to the gods on high. So this is basically talking about the angelic beings, or the heavenly hosts, creatures, the wheel inside of the wheel, but coming down here for the ascension of man, to upgrade humanity, and then they leave. So once they ascend to their higher self, and they become likening to God, so they don't need their assistance no more. But that's what angels are for your command, and to be at your assistance, to help you through the process of life, through their energies and dignities and their intelligence and the planetary bodies in which they govern. 30. Labor was transforming all living things. Wherever vigilance was abandoned, the darkness appeared at once, bringing her inner laws into play, but she could not approach a toiler. So basically, a bearer of light. That's why it says in the end, those that didn't have the mark or the seal of the God or the mark of the beast, this is how basically the mark of the beast, that means your light is dim. You're following the creature more than the creator, and having the seal of God means that light, that illuminating light that shines bright, because it's nothing but truth and light in you. You are a bearer of light. You're likening to God. You are his hands and feet on the ground. Gods or goddess, kings and queens. For she knew that labor was a prayer to the light. That means basically that labor, that means those works. So faith in those works, but the wheat and the shaft coming together, the celestial and the terrestrial. So basically they are light bearers on high, but they're on the ground. So they're likening to God. He sends his direct messages and signals to them. Taking advantage of the departure of the sons of God, evil began to invade the souls of light. Those had accepted the heavenly burden of fire. The heavenly burden of fire, of spirit. So basically, now you're going to be persecuted just for the simple fact of you having that knowledge and that connection. They're going to pervert everything you do that's good into something bad. With his countless legions of gloom, the darkness and devoured to confront these souls of light with equal or even stronger forces of evil. So the more that they ascend into greatness, into divine luxury and blessings, that the more that the evil inclination begins to attack them. That's where the persecution began, because based upon what time period of these wills and shoots is taking place during planetary alignment. She had already found such people, catching them at the very moment when they had let go of their secret labor, so their secret labor would be their original traditions, the way that their forefathers used to be. So once they have no connection to that tradition, guess what? They become open for attack. So once they let go of their secret labors which had been entrusted to them, the law, statutes, and commandment, and that way to be a light to the whole world and all of the Gentiles was taken away. That was entrusted to them. But remember, the curses came upon them because they didn't keep the law, statutes, and commandments in the Bible. After tricking them into believing that one could enjoy the fruits of somebody else's labor, the darkness did not allow them to work. Instead, put a sword in their hand, in their dangling hand. So remember in the book of Enoch, the fallen angels came down, but one, he taught the arts of wars, precious metals, beautifying the eyelids. So basically where you get these makeup and all these enhancing yourself to seduce people, or they create seducing spirits. The art of war, warmongers, warlords, but instead put a sword in their dangling hands. Evil permitted the forceful appropriation of that which had been given for the good of the whole world, as it had been cultivated for everyone, as it has been cultivated for everyone. No, I have a special people above all people, like unto myself. Every other people are like a spittle. It's a hierarchy, same way in the angelic realm. Menacing whirlwinds of darkness skimmed over the entire planet, swirling from one end of the globe to the other. These black wheels spun as if by a giant hand, sweeping up all the living things into their path. The darkness was determined to raise to the ground all the new shoots. So bring them down. The Decepticons. The Primes and the Decepticons that were threatening to cover the earth with a field of gold. Gold. In order to become 24K gold, you got to go through the fire. You got to go through the trials and tribulations and learn from trial and error. That's why God uses people that have troubled backgrounds, because they're going through the fire. They don't even realize they're being reproved. It's all a stepping stone to get them from point A to point B. That's why you have to guard yourself with the law, statutes, and commandments during the process, so you don't get killed until your number be fulfilled or your time be fulfilled to you. You live out the rest of your natural human life, or whatever God has in store for you. God's seed sprouted tender shoots as they broke free from the deep ruts that they had been trampled into by the gloom. Look, so basically now they're ascending. They've been perverted, they've been lied to, their heritage has been stolen from them, but they said they had broken free from basically the programming, the strong delusion that was over them, the blasphemy, the lies, the whitewashing of history. They're remembering the ways. They're waking up in the land of their captivities, as it says in the book of Baruch and the Apocrypha, in the land of their captivities. To remember the ways of their forefathers. Broke free from the deep ruts that they had been trampled into by the gloom, the darkness, and promised a rich harvest. Those who had cultivated their divine seeds in the fire were now joined by new souls. Now joined by new souls. So basically, the incarnations of the old spirits coming back into them fires. They had a great desire to assist their brethren who had risen from the ashes, came from the bottom through all the chaos and controversy, and basically rose to the occasion in the top, in the end, and endured to the end. Those that endure to the end shall surely be blessed. From the ashes, and now shone like lod stars before the eyes of sighted people. So now they got that glow. Just like King Solomon said, wherever he go upon the earth, he got that glow. People were going to gravitate to him. Hearts followed the light bearers. The light bearers, that's us. Prepared to pass through a deep abyss of gloom, carrying with them their inner divine light undefiled. This would mean in Revelation. Those becoming like a newborn child. They clothe themselves in white garments. They become pure in spirit, in truth, undefiled, untampered with, not following the ways and the traditions of men, but spiritual. Instead of their instincts, they're following their intuition. As we read early on in this chapter 32, the time had come. People began to talk about the periods like we doing now. We know that something is happening. This is that period. These prophecies is being fulfilled. We can feel the energy. We can see the consistencies. We can see the patterns. We can see how it's correlating. We can see the events going on around the world. And we understand the historical significance of them and where they extend from and why they're happening, because our intuition, our spirit is telling us, not what the news is saying, not what the media is saying, all them lies. He said they would try to deceive his very own elect, but he's going to cut that time short for his elect's sake. Hallelujah. What you think is happening? This is real. He said they started to rise above the concepts of time and break away from the ground. Man understood that he was the nexus of the decaying temporal meaning temporary, and the undercaying eternal. The undercaying, your spirit never dies. The immortal, so you gravitate to it because you realize the significance of it now. The eternal one that's in you. He was the possessor of two opposite poles, on one of which was the epic century of death, and the other one the century of immortality. Why you think when the serpent came and the evil inclination began, they couldn't live to be immortal anymore. That's when death came in the picture. So he is the possessor of two of the other one, the century of immortality and the epicenter of death. So physical life on earth and spiritual foreverness and remembrance. And the other one, he was at one and the same time the son of ashes and the son of God. So those that's coming through trials and tribulations from the bottom, coming out of captivity, coming out of a beast system, coming out of oppression, coming out of being lied to, coming out of destruction of their people, and running like wild bulls in the streets. It says, it was indeed a challenge to understand himself, since he had been woven entirely of contradictions. Everything, all these laws has been set up against our people for the destruction of our people so that we fail. And as it says, he had been woven entirely of contradictions. Everything they say contradicts itself, just like these sanctions that they putting on other countries right now. It's a cause and effect, and it's a reverse reaction to every action that is done. The contradictions which had taken up a firm position inside him, unwilling to change their own polarity. He was being torn apart. On the one hand, the mortal was luring him with all its might, while the other, the immortal, was attracting and charming him with the marvelous fires of spirit. Spiritual energies, entities, guidance, ideas, thoughts, eternal angel. Rise, rise, rise. Rise, thou eternal angel. No, where'd it go? You say L, L, L 3 times. Rise, thou eternal angel. And you say it 3 times in a mantra. And then you say this specific prayer out of the 6th and 7th book of Moses. He says the immortal was attracting and charming him with the marvelous fire of spirit. So it's basically talking about the physical aspect of you in the worldly form and your eternal self. And what is your driving force? Is it the eternal one that's in you, or is it the man part of you? Man kept swinging from one extreme to another. Decaying earthly treasures held no importance for the light. Earthly treasures, materialistic things, they have no significance in comparisons to the spiritual gifts that you're going to get from on high when you tap into that frequency. He said the importance for the light but decay could not recognize the divine gifts of eternity. A fierce eternal struggle was underway. The eternal battle. Good side, bad side. We all born with three different angels. Our angel that guides us into the world through our birth, a good angel and a bad angel. And whatever one you give more energy to by your actions, thoughts, and ideas and influence and force that drives you, then you're going to be at the end of that stick. You know, you get what you dish. Your works mean a lot. What are you contributing to? Are you contributing to the greater good of humanity, receiving for the purpose of sharing with others, or are you receiving for your own personal gain and for the image that other people perceive you as? But in darkness, you're a whole nother way when you ain't around nobody. So you just lying to yourself. That's why thou shalt not bear false witness. He said man was in conflict with himself. A gong struck. The third round of the battle was over. Balance had won. Balance. Kether had won. Man understood that he should not rush about and fret, thereby weakening his precious life forces. Basically, you just diluting yourself by following these other nations and the ways of man and the traditions of man instead of following your intuition and your spirit and letting the spirit guide you, but increasing in knowledge, studying until you show thyself approved. And then everything's going to come to you in concepts and ideas. And every thought that you have, how you control it and dictate it is going to lead to an action. People, places, times, you're gonna be in Pacific places and meet people at Pacific times, and certain things is gonna happen. Sometimes without you even knowing that you're doing it. Some people are fully conscious and aware and realize it's happening as it's happening. But it's a difference. You gotta be in tune. That he should not rush about and fret, thereby weakening his precious life force. His two poles, like two scale pans, he resolved to keep in balance, not letting evil outweigh his divine heritage. Not letting evil outweigh his divine heritage. Not letting evil outweigh his divine heritage. See how all this stuff corresponds? The pan of light was feathery and weightless. He must no longer add dark deeds to the opposing pan of darkness. At the same time, he would sort through its contents for worthiness so as to burn whatever he didn't need as superfluous rubbish. So getting it out of here, like clean that out my database, backspace, delete that, like Kevin Hart said, get it out of here. The work progressed quickly. Man glanced sometimes into one of the pans and sometimes into the other. Pondering on your thoughts, sitting there letting your mind wander, but not being content on something and not feeding that side of the spirit with those things that will help you increase in knowledge and lead you to the Most High, the Eternal One. The pan of light was difficult, for it was so weightless and invisible that it was a challenge to perceive just when the pan of evil started to outweigh it. A high degree of alertness was required. That's why I said you got to be in tune. You got to be in tune with what's going on. Be mindful and aware of all your actions and why everything is happening, why it's happening. Not just for the minute, the second, the hour, all the time. You got to be fully aware and know that God is in motion and everything is happening for a reason. Instead of panicking, not realizing throughout your whole life everything has been a stepping stone, to perceive just when the pan of evil started to outweigh it, a high degree of alertness was required, and the gods decided to set a new period meaning a new age, which we are in the age of Aquarius, the end of an age. He said, for the round of earthly time, so that mankind would be armed with the priceless gift of heaven. I'm out. New Jeru Blue. Like, share, subscribe. Kodash, 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 Adonai, Elohim, Sabayath, meaning holy, 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 Lord of hosts, Atoner one. Hallelujah. Salah, I'm out.